On October 11, 1311, the realm of England stood at a precipice, where the excesses of royal power necessitated intervention from both the peerage and clergy, leading to the crucial formulation of the Ordinances of 1311. The early 14th century was marked by political strife as King Edward II faced mounting opposition from powerful nobles who sought to limit his authority through legal means. At the forefront of this movement was Lord William of Lancaster, whose stature and experience made him a crucial player in the push for reform within the monarchy. Bishop Eleanor of Winchester, representing the clergy, also played a pivotal role, advocating for the Church's involvement in state affairs to rebalance power with the monarchy. Amidst the tensions, younger figures like Sir Edward de Montfort emerged, embodying the ambition of the next generation, eager for political reform. The gathering of nobles and clergy at Westminster became a focal point where grievances against the king were formally aired, leading to the drafting of the Ordinances. Drafting the Ordinances required careful negotiation, as the interests of various factions had to be balanced to achieve a workable compromise. The culmination of their efforts saw the emergence of a document that aimed to curb the king's powers, laying the groundwork for future governance in England. Reactions to the Ordinances were mixed, as supporters praised the checks on royal power, while loyalists of King Edward II viewed it as a direct threat. As the debate raged on, Lady Margaret Plantagenet stepped forward, using her influence to mediate between the factions and advocate for a peaceful resolution. The finalization of the Ordinances of 1311 marked a decisive turn in the power dynamics between the monarchy and its nobility in England. Ultimately, the Ordinances reflected a growing desire for a more balanced and representative governance structure within the English realm. As news of the Ordinances spread, communities across England responded, igniting discussions about governance and rights of the nobility versus the monarchy. The political landscape of England began to shift, with factions forming that either supported the king or rallied behind the new ordinances. Bishop Eleanor of Winchester, understanding the implications, called for peace among the divisions, hoping to unify the country in a time of turmoil. Rumors of rebellion among the nobility began to circulate, with some asserting that any infringement by King Edward II would lead to civil unrest. Lord William of Lancaster used his extensive network to gather support for the Ordinances, seeking alliances with like-minded nobles. With tensions escalating, Sir Edward de Montfort positioned himself as a key player, rallying younger nobles to the cause of the Ordinances. Simultaneously, Lady Margaret Plantagenet worked behind the scenes, leveraging her connections to sway undecided nobles toward commitment to the Ordinances. Within the clergy, Bishop Eleanor sought to remind all parties of their moral duty, urging them to consider the implications of their choices for the people. The drafting of the Ordinances was not without challenges, resulting in heated debates among the nobles regarding what reforms were necessary. As the deadline approached for finalizing the Ordinances, pressure mounted on the nobles to reach a consensus before the king's reaction. Conversations spread through the streets of London, igniting public awareness of the changes being proposed to the king's authority. The reactions from the monarchy were apprehensive, as Edward II and his advisors grappled with the idea of diminished power. Upon finalization, the Ordinances were vigorously defended by its proponents, marking a crucial shift in governance at this pivotal point in England's history. In hindsight, the Ordinances of 1311 were a testament to the enduring struggle for power that characterized medieval England, foreshadowing future conflicts. As discussions intensified, Lord William of Lancaster passionately articulated the grievances of the nobility, asserting the need for constitutional limits on the king's absolute power. Bishop Eleanor of Winchester urged her fellow clerics to consider the moral implications of unchecked royal authority, rallying support for the Ordinances among the religious council. Lady Margaret Plantagenet skillfully navigated the tensions, fostering dialogue between the adversarial factions, drawing on her noble status to create a bridge between the king's supporters and opponents. Meanwhile, Sir Edward de Montfort sparked enthusiasm among the younger nobles, encouraging them to step forward as reformers willing to challenge the status quo of royal power. Tensions escalated as word of dissent spread among the common people, rumors of rebellion brewing in the foreboding shadows of the looming crisis. As discussions continued, the nobility faced the challenge of balancing their personal ambitions with the collective goal of limiting the king's power through the ordinances. The prospect of division grew palpable as factions within the nobility began to emerge, each vying for their interpretation of what limitations should be placed on the monarchy. As the deadline approached, Lord William felt the weight of history on his shoulders, seeking to forge a united front before the king's potential backlash. Bishop Eleanor convened a secret meeting with influential clergy, discussing strategies to garner public support for the ordinances and curb royal authority. Lady Margaret continued to champion the cause of reform among noble women, rallying them to influence their husbands and sons towards supporting the ordinances. Caught in the middle, Sir Edward de Montfort attempted to persuade hesitant young nobles, invoking their sense of duty to the kingdom and future generations. News of the deliberations reached the king's ears, raising tensions as his loyalists prepared to counter the growing influence of the nobles and clergy. Despite the fractures appearing within the nobility, the desire for reform united them in a historic moment that could redefine the monarchy's role in England for generations to come. As the final hours approached, Lord William rallied the leaders, urging them to reaffirm their commitment, reminding them of the weight of their decisions on future generations. Bishop Eleanor led a prayer for wisdom and unity among the clerics, invoking divine guidance as they faced this unprecedented political challenge. Amidst the fervor, Lady Margaret penned poignant letters to key figures, imploring them to lend their voices in support of the ordinances to build a momentum for change. Sir Edward's fervent speeches inspired young knights to take a stand, transforming the momentum behind the ordinances into a youthful cause about loyalty to the kingdom. As the deadline loomed, an air of uncertainty spread, prompting an unexpected alliance between dissenters and loyalists, contemplating the repercussions of their choices. With time running out, the peerage and clergy braced themselves for the king's impending response, knowing it could ignite the flames of conflict across the kingdom. The culmination of their efforts sought to mark a transformative chapter in English history, where the interplay of power between the crown and the nobility would be forever changed. On October 11th, 1311, England faced a political crisis as King Edward II's excessive royal power prompted nobles and clergy to intervene, leading to the creation of the Ordinances of 1311. Key figures like Lord William of Lancaster and Bishop Eleanor of Winchester advocated for legal reforms to limit the king's authority. The Assembly at Westminster focused on airing grievances and drafting the ordinances, requiring careful negotiation among varying interests. The resulting document aimed to curtail royal power, drawing mixed reactions from various factions. Supporters welcomed the checks on the monarchy, while loyalists viewed it as a threat to the crown's authority. Lady Margaret Plantagenet emerged as a mediator for peace amidst growing tensions. Tensions grew with rumors of rebellion among the common people as conflicts erupted. Lord William sought alliances, determined to strengthen the noble front against the king's potential backlash. Bishop Eleanor emphasized moral duties amidst public discussions about governance and the need for reform. Lady Margaret rallied noble women to influence their families in support of the ordinances, seeking to unify their efforts. Sir Edward de Montfort rallied younger nobles for reform, attempting to galvanize their energy and ambition for change. As news of their deliberations reached the king, the stakes increased and tension heightened throughout the kingdom. In the final hours, the leaders reaffirmed their commitment to the cause, uniting in purpose regardless of differing motives. Bishop Eleanor prayed for wisdom and unity as they finalized their plans, seeking divine guidance amidst the storm of discord. Lady Margaret wrote letters to garner support from distant allies, hoping to fortify their plans for reform. Sir Edward inspired young knights with passionate speeches, turning the Ordinances into a rallying cause among the youth. As the atmosphere turned tense, both dissenters and loyalists weighed their choices, pondering their impact on the kingdom's future. The stakes rose dramatically as divergent paths emerged, each group preparing for the consequences of their choices on the kingdom. Ultimately, the events of October 11th, 1311, foreshadowed a pivotal shift in England's power dynamics, leading to future conflicts over governance and monarchy.